welcome to another fun-filled Monday extravaganza edition of Second City Sports. You're locked and loaded and we're live in the living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Along with Miss LaKeena McGee, which is she. I ain't Sidney Brown, you know it's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, at SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You find Mcee on the Twitter, executing the IG.
Be sure to download the Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Please follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, X, Instagram, and YouTube. Please subscribe to our podcast. We're located at War Media Podcast. That's WARR Media, PODCASTS. We are on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And while you're at it, please give War Media a follow at WARR Media on all social media platforms. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We're unapologetically fun, and we have very definite opinions. If you have any definite opinion, do not 2 hour extravaganza we call a sports talk radio show. You can definitely hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. LaKeena will get the up on the screen for you. But you decide to troll, indoor, do something silly, dumb, or stupid. I've given LaKeena full powers to give you dumbos to be able to be a boot.
Toodles.
But before we begin, shout out to our live game. That's LIVE Live Entertainment Game that's checking us out right now at 12:21 p.m. Central Standard Time on our Facebook and YouTube pages at Sports Zone Chicago. But much love to the replay game that's checking us out right now, also on our Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook and YouTube pages. Don't you ever forget our motto, where we talk sports, music, and entertainment. We will always provide.
We invite you with some of the best in Second City Sports. Of course, if you're off this week because of the holiday, welcome. Make sure you guys tell your friends about us. Of course, we'll talk. Well, speaking of that, topical for Old School TV Monday, a very topical show, the multi-Emmy award-winning show that kind of coincides with what's going to happen later this week. We'll let you guys guess, make any guesses, but we'll talk about that for Old School TV Monday. Of course, since we're not gonna be doing a show, for the 4th of July, we're gonna kind of try to get everything kind of condensed. There was a blockbuster trade in the NFL involving an All-Pro corner. We'll talk about that. And does his new team make him a contender? We'll talk about that as well. The Pac-12 has added another school. Some NBA moves, including the Bulls trading Lonzo for what? But again, I digress. Other NBA transactions. And other NFL stuff, Wimbledon, over there, a couple of Americans advance, and so much more. But first, let's talk some baseball, as we usually start with this time of year, as the Cubs lose a tough series down in Houston against the Astros. Oh boy! And unfortunately for the Cubs, they don't have a winning record against teams over 500 and above. At 500 or above. I think the last team was the Dodgers way back almost a couple of months ago. They were shut out 2-0. Altuve actually hit two home runs to help a 2-run home run. That was all they needed. Vera Valdez to shut the door on the Cubs offense. Excuse me. And yeah, there's only the Brewers are only 2 back, so the Cardinals are like 2.5 back. They actually, and going by our buddy Russ Dorsey, and I got to get the numbers up here, but he did post about the records for a lot of the NL Central teams since June 1st, I should say. The Cubs are 13-14. They have the worst record among all the teams in the NL Central. The Brewers are 17-9. The Reds are 16-10. 15-13 are the Cardinals, and 14-13 are the Pirates. So, Sid, are you worried about the Cubs, or is it just like the ebbs and flows of the season? What's
I think it's just the ebbs and flows of the season, but I'm not. If you're a Cubs fan, you're not ready to jump off the ledge. I know they haven't played well lately. You're still trying to sort things out, especially with the back end of that starting rotation. Ben Brown being sent down to the minors. Colin Ray still trying to figure himself out. He was benefited with that 12-run outburst in their lone victory last Saturday night. And Cade Horton still trying to figure things out as well, even though he has a winning record. Here's the thing, LaKeena. Jed Hoyer, we all know that he's under the gun this year because if the Cubs don't make the playoffs, that means he's getting the pink slip in his link card. Shout out to our lake friend, the good Lamont Scott, for that one, including yours truly. But for that quote. but Jed Hoyer needs to make a move for a starting pitcher. We've been saying it all off season. We've been saying this since the start of the regular season. And here's the thing: are you willing to part with the majority of your minor league prospects to go get a person like a Sandy Alcantara from the Miami Marlins, or is it somebody else out there we're not looking at that Jed Hoyer's looking at? I'm sure he is because you can't put on all of your eggs in one basket, but the Cubs starting pitching has been their strength over the last couple of years. We know the offense until this year has been schizophrenic. Now with the offense going, and the bullpen's actually starting itself out. We talked about it on the last couple of shows. The starting pitching needs to get back on track. And Shota Imanaga, he's back. We talked about that last Friday on the show. He looked good in his return against St. Louis last Thursday afternoon. But you need that number one starter to put fear in other teams' hearts, especially come playoff time when you face these teams like the New York Mets and the Philadelphia Phillies, the Los Angeles Dodgers. Should you meet up with them, or perhaps meet up with the Milwaukee Brewers in the NLDS this year? You need that other starter to go within Managa to have that one-two punch to put in other fear teams' hearts, to put that fear in other teams' hearts. Right now, on paper, they don't have that.
You listen to Second City Sports on Sports Chicago. LaKeena, Mcee, Sidney Brown with you, and I've heard, I think, I think what's interesting here is that some of the various names have been flown around. Alcantara, that's the names that have been flown around. Adrian Hauser for the White Sox. You may not have to give up much for him. A veteran pitcher. He's, we'll talk about the White Sox in a second here, and but also too, like you need more depth on the hitting side. Mike Tauchman, of course, a former Cub, his name's been flown around. Someone said Alex Bregman, which you're gonna have to probably gotta give up literally the farm to get Bregman. To get him. Maybe Stephen Moss. I know, for St. Linus. Also, hey, your buddy Yohan Moncada now with the Angels. He's been playing pretty well too. Could probably add some depth to that Cubs lineup. And I think what's interesting here is I think for the Cubs, I think they need to. I don't know if they thought that they had enough to perhaps maybe win the division, but as of all the teams, the Brewers, I don't know how they've been able to do it. I know they lost to Colorado, but they're still breathing down your necks. St. Louis, as I said, look, talk to me in about a month. We'll see if they're still a contender. They did this last year. You thought that maybe they could make a run, but unfortunately, that they ended up sinking after the All-Star break. So yeah, I think. Look, I'm trying not to be too concerned. Of course, Cubs fans are always concerned in general, but. You kind of wonder, like, they're going to have to get another starter, get another middle reliever, and perhaps maybe add some depth in that offense, because there are going to be times when, like what happened on Sunday, Valdez basically shut the door, like I said, on that Cubs offense. So they're going to have to add some more depth there, too.
Yeah, and speaking of pitcher, like Freeman Valdez from the Astros yesterday, great pitcher performance. We know this, and I'll keep saying this until the end of the season. The Cubs, they actually done a good job, at least to start the year. Whenever they don't hit the home run, they play the hit and run. They steal bases. I think they still tops in Major League Baseball, not the National League, in stolen bases. They haven't hit the 100 stolen base mark yet, but I know they will soon. And it's something you didn't see a whole lot of yesterday because of that pitching performance by Valdez. But the Cubs have to be creative at times of the way they score runs, because if you depend on the home run ball too much, you're definitely going to be in trouble. See the 2021 Chicago White Sox, but I digress. But I want to ask you this question, LaKeena, going into the break. If you have a rapid fire answer, go ahead. But given the good, and not just this, I know people want to think about just this recent stretch, but take everything what they've gone through in April with the toughest schedule, at least on paper in baseball, what they did in May, what they did in June, what they're going through right now. I'll ask you to your honest assessment on where this team stands compared to the rest of the National League. Do you think that the Cubs are better than the New York Mets right now, given their bullpen issues?
They're right there on level with them, I think.
I think they're slightly better than the Mets. The Mets bullpen is worse. The Cubs bullpen has improved. Do you think the Cubs are better than the Philadelphia Phillies right now?
Right now, because they also are having bullpen issues. They're about even, I think. I'll say maybe the Cubs because they've got their bullpen has been a little bit better, but yeah, I would say just a little bit better. I talk about the Cubs.
All right, we won't go to the NL Central. I'll go to the NL West. Do you think they're better than the Dodgers right now, even though they're catching fire? Okay.
No.
The San Diego Padres.
Maybe.
Okay. and the San Francisco Giants, who just got Rafael Devers a couple weeks ago.
The Giants. Look, I mean, they won. They lost 2 out of 3 against your White Sox. Well, but let's get to the White Sox here. But yeah, I don't. They're right there on par. But like I said, they're even the last couple times they played. So I would say they're probably kind of on par with them. Now, speaking of the Giants, like I said, the White Sox did win their series against the Giants 5-2 in the rubber match. There, Miguel Vargas scored on a balk. Kyle Teal had a double, and Leonard Sosa had the go-ahead RBI there to help us cement that 2 out of 3 matchup there with a solid Giant squad. I mean, they came back from 2-1 down. They scored 4 in the 7th. So again, we're in the fun bad part of the rebuild for the White Sox. And look, they got to go all the way out west to face the Dodgers. So we'll talk about the Dodgers after the break. But what do you think? What do you think about your assessment of that series?
Well, the White Sox lost their first Friday night home game of the year, so go figure that with Florida, the hip-hop performer from a decade ago, performing after the game. I heard some mixed reviews about that concert, but we won't get into that on this show here. But back to the men on the field. Adrian Hauser pitched the gym on Saturday with the 7 shutout innings, only giving up a couple of hits. He struck out 5, only walking run. He gave up 4 hits to be exact. It was a great performance, and the White Sox bullpen has actually been solid over the last couple of weeks, thanks to Grant Taylor, who came in on Saturday to get the save, pitching 2+ innings. Of course, yesterday you thought they was going to blow it, but they didn't, thanks to that 4-run 7th inning. Kyle Tevez, you mentioned, and Lenyn Sosa with the insurance run. The White Sox pitch, as we said all year long, is going to be their strength, and it showed that in this series, but their bullpen is obviously still needs a lot of work, but it looks like they found the gym at Grant Taylor. We'll see how well Venable, their manager, uses him from here on out. But you mentioned about the talent, about the Kyle Teals, the Edgar Carrolls, who picked off a run at third base in Saturday's game, by the way. That was very nice to see. Michael A. Taylor, a veteran, who had a home run on Saturday and nearly hit one out yesterday. Maybe if you Chris Guess you get something for him at the trade deadline. Not much, but maybe you can get something for him. You talk about Mike Topman. I think he'll be one of the first veterans gone at the trade deadline too. The one thing that's concerning to me, and we talked about it on the show too, is Luis Robert Jr. He's back on the IL for the next 10 days. And looking at it now, LaKeena, if the White Sox decide to trade, which you know they will, if they can get something for him at the July 31st trade deadline, so be it. But looking back at everything, if you believe the reports during the off season and up to through spring training, Chris Getz tried to play his best hand. It worked at this time last year with them getting Dylan Cease out of here before the start of the season. He tried to do the same thing with Luis Robert Jr. and didn't like what he saw from a couple of teams. Fast forward to now, he's still going to get something, but he's not going to get what he wants, and it's really a shame from the White Sox management standpoint because of the injuries to Luis Robert Jr. He started out the season struggling anyway. He started to pick it up a little bit, and then now this current injury is another minor setback again.
Could be very interesting, though. Like I said, that we're facing a Dodger squad that is starting to heat up a little bit. So we'll see how the White Sox fare against them. Like I said, they're starting to find their groove. So, like I said, we're in the fun bad part. We'll see if they can push the Dodgers and perhaps maybe win one game that series starting tomorrow. All right, we got to take a really quick break here. Of course, we'll talk more baseball as Tariq Skubal with another gem. Is he the odds-on favorite to go back-to-back in the AL Cy Young? Speaking of the Dodgers, they're starting to get they're starting to try to find their groove. And like I said, the Yankees, well, you know how Yankee fans are, so they're freaking out because they didn't have the best series against the A's. And speaking of the Phillies, they're starting to kind of get it going a little bit too as well. So more baseball talk coming back after this. LaKeena, City Brown, Second City Sports. Sports of Chicago, our pre-4th of July edition show continues.
Hey, it's your boy, the Superback, Sean Sierra, and be sure to follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms. On Facebook, Instagram, and our Roku channel, you can find us at Sports Zone Chicago. And on Twitter, we are at Sports Zone Shy. Also, be sure to download our mobile app so you can take Sports Zone Chicago with you on the go.
Got it done here. Ouch! And we're gonna make sure you lit this time. Ouch! You're not gonna get me this time.
Ow, Manny!
Whoops! Let's try an easy one.
Every day we take steps to keep the people we love safe, but some health risks are easy to miss. Ticks hiding in the yard can spread germs, like the ones that cause Lyme disease. Mice searching for food can spread bacteria that makes us sick. Mosquitoes lay eggs in standing water and can spread West Nile virus and more. Cockroaches are drawn to water in the home, leaving behind allergens that can trigger asthma attacks. Common pests can threaten our health. Learn how to protect your family at pestworld.org.
Hey, this is Corey Maggette, and I listen to Sean and Maya on the morning show.
Welcome back to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid LaKeena hanging out here with you. If you want to follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at Sid, you can do so at SidKid80. Once again, at SidKid80, that's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow LaKeena McGee on the Twitter, executors and the IG.
And if you have any questions or comments about the Cubs and the Sox or the best, the worst from the world of Major League Baseball from this past weekend, you could hit us up right now at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. LaKeena will get up on the screen for you. Before we get to the rest of best and worst of Major League Baseball from the weekend, we want to give you the pitching matchups of the Cubs against the Cleveland Guardians starting tomorrow and the White Sox and the Dodgers starting tomorrow at LA. We'll go with the Cubs first, your pitching matchup. All 9 games for the Cubs this week. Starting on Tuesday, you'll have Gavin Williams versus Matthew Boyd. You can see that game nationally on TBS, locally on Marquee. Sorry, LaKeena. Wednesday, exclusively on ESPN, Tanner Bibby versus Shota Imanaga. And, of course, on Thursday at 7:05, we'll have Louise versus Cade Horton. For the White Sox, their series will start tomorrow at Los Angeles against the Dodgers. They'll hit the West Coast. Your pitching matchups for tomorrow for the Chicago White Sox will be Shane Smith versus Yoshi Yamamoto. Wednesday's matchup will have Sean Burke versus Clayton Kershaw. That should be a good one there. And Thursday's matchup will have the redheaded Dustin May versus Aaron Savali.
And of course, for the 4th of July weekend, we won't be on Friday, so we'll just do the matchups here as the Cubs will face the Cardinals. The first game will be on July 4th, which will be on Apple TV Plus at 1:20. Of course, it's here in Chicago at Wrigley. You got Colin Ray against Mikolas, and you got Jameson Taillon against Liberatore. And of course, former White Sox Eric Fetty, he faces Matthew Boyd. And that game will be part of the earliest Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN. As for the White Sox, so I think you got the White Sox schedule in front of you for the weekend.
Yeah, the White Sox will continue their West Coast road. Next game will have Adrian Houses versus Antonio Santella. Saturday's matchup will have Jonathan Cannon versus Germán Marquez. And then Sunday, Dollander.
Yeah.
So there's your pitching matchups for both Chicago teams this weekend.
All right, now we can talk about the rest of the weekend in Major League Baseball. Of course, Tariq Skubal got this, helped the Tigers to their series win against the Twins, shutting them out. He had seven scoreless innings and 13 strikeouts. He wins. That's his 10th straight decision. And of course, the Tigers shut out the Twins last night in Sunday Night Baseball. Sid, I'm not going to say he's going to run away with the AL Cy Young once again, but he's definitely making a case.
Yeah, as we talked about on our show last week, he struggled a little bit in his last start against the Oakland Athletics of Sacramento, as we called them on this show. But he was very dominant against an inconsistent Minnesota Twins lineup last night. And even though I am not a Tigers fan, it was nice to see them get some national spotlight on ESPN last night. Even though ESPN will be going away from covering Major League Baseball games after the season. But the Tigers, as we talked about on the show all year long, I love their bullpen. We talk about their starting rotation, not just with Tariq Scuba, with Jack Flaherty as well, and Mcee, who you mentioned earlier, and maybe a possible trading rumors, but I don't think that's going to happen. But the Tigers, they do almost everything right. Give manager AJ Hinch credit for assimilating a group of guys that just like to go out there and do their job. You have Kerry Carpenter, you have Riley Green, you have Spencer Torkelson, who's damn near off the team around this time last year. He picked it up after the All-Star break, which helped the Tigers on their run to capture the AL Central Division title last year. So they're the best team. As I said, they're the best team record-wise in the American League right now. They'll be the only team representing the AL Central in this year's playoffs. There's nothing that's changed my mind about that. The AL is wide open. Yes, you have the Yankees. Yes, you have Houston, who is starting to take off, but Detroit is right there. We'll see what their front office can do between now and the trade deadline. Maybe they pick up another starter, and maybe they pick up that big bat. But we'll see.
Yeah, I think they may have to pick up another setup guy in the bullpen, but that's probably their only weakness right now. But we'll see if they address that before the trade deadline. We won't talk about the rest of that division because everyone else stinks. Whatever. But let's moving on and talk some Yankees, of course. Mr. Aaron Judge, he is the first major league player to have at least 30 home runs and 110 hits prior to July. I know Yankee fans were upset they didn't sweep the A's, but look, you won 2 out of 3, and that's fine. 12-5 in the rubber match of that series. So look, I mean, you'll take that if you're a Yankees fan. Now, Tampa Bay did struggle a little bit in their series against the Orioles. They did win 2 out of 3 there, 5-1, but especially but they lost to the Orioles, losing 2 out of 3 there, so they get a little bit of a cushion. The Yankees get a little bit of a breathing room there, especially after the Rays losing 22-8 in that game Friday. That was just an awful pitch display by that. Okay, do I think the Rays are kind of falling back to earth a little bit? Yeah, but do I think they can give the Yankees all they can handle? I think they still can, but yeah, that series was not a good series against the Orioles.
Yeah, for Baltimore, as we said before, I hate to say it, but you can back up the truck, and we'll see who's available off that team come trade deadline time. You mentioned about Tampa Bay. Always give manager Kevin Cash credit for motivating his guys. They play the game right. They play the game with fundamentals in mind. And do I think this is a hot streak? A little bit. Can they hang around for a while? I think so, but we'll see if their management decides to make any moves at the trade deadline. I don't think they're going to be sellers unless they completely fall off the face of the earth between now and the trade deadline. But I think they'll be competitive enough. They can add somebody, but we know they don't have a big budget like some of these big market teams, including both Chicago teams and the White Sox in there, even though they spend like they're in Sioux City, Iowa, but I digress. But Tampa, as I said before, they're one of those teams that you make a mistake against them, they'll make you pay. Now, with the Yankees, you talk about Aaron Judge getting back on track with those 2 home runs yesterday. Chaz Chisholm Jr., it's nice to see you again. 2 for 4 yesterday. Cody Belcher, 3 for 5, including scoring 3 runs and having 3 RBI. He's so we talked about before, injuries has been the crippling in his career. If he stays healthy, he's definitely going to help out John Carlos staying in Aaron Judge. And even though it wasn't the world's greatest performance, nice to see you again, Marcus Stroman.
Yeah,
nice to see you
right?
Again yesterday. He pitched 5 innings, gave up 3 hits, 2 walks, and a strikeout. You need to get a little bit more of that and then some out of him. I'm not saying he's going to go back to the Cy Young days of 6-7 years ago, but the Yankees need to get a little bit more out of him. So it was nice to see Stroman sighting yesterday.
Well, speaking of Stroman, is one of his former teams, the Blue Jays. They won 2 out of 3 against the Red Sox over at Fenway Park. Another 5-3 the rubber match there. Both Addison Barger and Vlad Jr. Hit home runs on consecutive pitches. So, they're 3 back. They're right there. I think if you're the Yankees, I think you should more worry about Toronto than you should the Rays. Because I think Toronto all needs to beef up that pitching, and I think they could be right there. They may address that during the before the trade deadline, but I like where Toronto's at so far, 45-38. I mean, they were near the bottom last year, so they're right there to think of it, and they would be going to the playoffs if the season were to end today.
Yeah, Toronto always gives Boston headaches in Fenway Park, as you always say. I did watch the majority of that game yesterday after I got home for the White Sox game. Yeah, those 2 home runs in the first inning, in my opinion, set the tone for the whole game. Walker Buehler, as we talked about, I think on our last show, who the Red Sox picked up from the Dodgers in the offseason, he is not having a good year. I know that he's 5-6 right now, and his location is all over the place. And the Red Sox offense has suffered since they traded Rafael Devers. I know many people believe, including yours truly, have the Red Sox punting on this season. It's still amazing. I'm using air quotes here that they're 3 games below 500. So you can make it what you want with that. But I'm with you on Toronto. If they could just make a move or two, whether it's in their bullpen, maybe get another bat, I think they could stay a while longer in this AL wildcard race.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens with that. Now going to the AL West for a second here, of course, the Mariners, they won 2 out of 3 against Texas, so they're 6.5 back of Houston. But again, I think they could definitely be right there in that division for one of those wild card spots, if nothing else. But I'm not giving up on Seattle just yet. Now the Angels, send out our best to Mr. Ron Washington. I know he's been having some medical issues, and he's going to be gone for the rest of the year. So hopefully it's not super serious. It's amazing that they're only like a game below 500. I mean, they lost their series to the Nats this weekend, but like I said, going back to the West, I'm not going to give Houston the division just yet. I know they just lost Jeremy Pena. He's going to be gone for a while, so that's a big loss for the Astros. So, yeah, I still think that the AL West is up for grabs. What say you?
I think Houston has a slight edge, even though, LaKeena, I want to see if this hot streak they're on right now is sustainable to release the All-Star break. If it is, I will take them a little bit more seriously. I know this is a different Astros team that we're used to seeing in years past, but they got great starting pitching. They had great clutch hitting, especially in that series against the Chicago Cubs. So I want to see this at least through the All-Star break to really, if I could really take them seriously. Seattle, your Mariners, they need one good hot streak, and I think they can match the Astros. And it isn't for what the division looks like. It's really not going to take much. And we keep saying this almost every year about Seattle. You need one good hot streak, and I think you could be right there for the AL West division title. I'm just about right here in throwing dirt on the Texas Rangers. They had enough time to get things together. Their starting pitching is still good enough, but their bullpen stinks and they're inconsistent on offense. And going back to your Cubs, LaKeena, real quick, someone brought it up on the radio over the weekend. I'm going to bring it up with you here. Does Nathan Eovaldi and or Jacob deGrom sounds good to you right now in a Cubs uniform?
Yeah, to me,
I think Eovaldi does.
Yeah, I think Eovaldi probably because you won't have to give up much to get him. I think DeGrom, you may have to give up a couple of your top prospects. Eovaldi, I think I've always liked him, so you may not have to give up that much to get him. I think he's a better fit. Like I said, DeGrom might be. You may have to give up one of your top prospects. So I don't know. We'll see.
Yep. You listen to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid, LaKeena hanging out here with you, discussing the best and worst from Major League Baseball from this past weekend. Let's go over to the NL West and talk about the LA Dodgers. The Dodgers took 2 out of 3 from the Kansas City Royals on the road. Shohei Ohtani pitched 2 innings in the Saturday loss against the Royals. The Royals beat the Dodgers in the Saturday game 9-5. It looks like Shohei Ohtani starting to get his timing back. Manager Dave Roberts is starting to build up some stamina with Ohtani in terms of the pitch counts and things along that line. But the Dodgers bats woke up over the weekend, scoring 15 runs, 5 in each game, taking 2 out of 3.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely like I said, Hernandez, Enrique Hernandez, and Kike Hernandez, no relation. Both hit home runs during that series. Of course, Hernandez and Will Smith. No, not that Will Smith, but the other Will Smith from the Dodgers. And of course, Shohei did his thing on that Friday game, hitting a home run and a triple. But yeah, I think the Dodgers are starting to get it going too. Like I said, I remember they're starting to find their groove. Their pitching's been it hasn't been great, but it's been okay. But I think the Dodgers, they've got the depth and the firepower. I do think though that they are gonna probably get another bullpen guy for the trade deadline. If anything else, I know Kershaw. Like we talked about him early about this time last week, and he's starting to find his groove again. So like I say, if they can get another pitcher, I think that would probably definitely would help there. But we'll see. But yeah, I like where the Dodgers are going right now.
Yeah, and we talked about them all year long, dealing with injuries, especially to their starting rotation. This season is about getting guys healthy to make a potential run in the playoffs. As I said before, I'll say it again: the way they won a World Series last year, piecing starting pitchers together, having bullpen games, it did work, but it's not going to work again this year. You mentioned Clayton Kershaw. I believe he'll get the start on Wednesday in the series against the White Sox. He's looked good in his last couple of outings. So, yeah, is he going back to the prime Clayton Kershaw? No, but if he does not giving you 5 or 6 solid innings, he'll be okay. Now, I want to talk about the team that I had as a surprise this year, making a wild card, one of the 3 wild card spots in the National League, and that's the Cincinnati Reds. They take 2 out of 3 from the San Diego Padres, including the game winner yesterday by the score of 3-2 in the 9th inning, thanks to Will Benson's RBI single. Nick Lodolo pitched well for the Cincinnati Reds, giving them 5 strikeouts over 5 in the 3rd innings, giving up 7 hits, 1 earned run. Watching that game yesterday, you thought the Padres had enough. You thought that they were going to put the game away, but no. Cincinnati had great starting pitchers, I mentioned, kept themselves in the game, got a great rally going in the 9th inning and pulled it out. I want to give love from this series. I want to give love to Nick Martinez. He was the first pitcher to pitch a no-hitter for Cincinnati going into the 9th inning, and of course they won that opener by the score of 8-1. So Nick Martinez had a great outing. Of course, that was obviously the best pitch game of his career. Cincinnati's, they're a couple of games over 500 right now, 44-40. I know people talk about St. Louis, they talk about Milwaukee, and rightfully so, but watch out for those Cincinnati Reds. They're coming good. Thanks to Terry Francona, the first-year manager, veteran manager.
Yeah, like I said, I'm like I said, that whole division, like I said, wake me, ask me again when it gets to like near the end of the month as we go to the trade deadline. Are there going to be buyers or are there going to be sellers? So we thought they were going to be buyers last year. They ended up not doing anything. We saw they basically the wheels fall off after that. So yeah, I'm still a little bit worried about Cincinnati, but we'll see what happens with them as we get closer and closer to the trade deadline, what direction they go. We talked about the Giants. Of course, lost the series to White Sox. Arizona, you probably definitely say they're done. They got swept by the Marlins. So yeah, that's you basically say that's all for the Diamondbacks. Now going to the NL East, Philadelphia, they went 2 out of 3 against Atlanta, including yesterday's game. Ranger Suarez, he shined once again. He's been hitting the ball very well lately for the Phillies to help us take that series there against the Braves. So again, Philadelphia, they're starting to kind of get it going. Like I said, they're still going to have to find some way to address that bullpen issue because that's still going to be an issue for them. I'm sure they will. But yeah, Philadelphia is starting to kind of get it going here a little bit after they had a little bit of a hiccup. I know they got swept by Houston early last week, but a nice little pick me up there against the Braves, taking 2 out of 3 there in Atlanta.
Yeah, I was going to say for Philadelphia, we talked about the starting pitching with Zach Wheeler and Aaron Nola. Rangers Suarez has been under the radar, but he had a great performance yesterday. And the Braves team has been underachieving so far. I'm giving the Braves another week. If they don't turn around, I think you can start to back the truck up on them too. I'm not going to sit here and say they're going to have a complete overhaul, but I think there's a couple of guys you can look at that they could become trade candidates. So we'll see what happens with the Braves. Staying in the NL East, the New York Mets, we talked about earlier with their bullpen issues, they got swept by the Pittsburgh Pirates, losing all 3 games by 7 runs or more. Go figure.
Yeah, they only scored 4 runs in total in that series, and I don't know what's going on up there, But yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's definitely, gosh, I don't know what to say. I mean, their pitching, that hasn't helped them, and the bats have been quiet for the most part. No Pete Alonso, though he's struggled lately. I know Cannings has a ruptured Achilles, so he's going to be on the IL for 60 days. So that's gonna be a big issue for the Mets, especially with that pitching. So I'm not gonna say that this is gonna be the beginning of the end for the Mets, but they gotta get it going up there in Brooklyn, or else they're gonna be they might be back in the big truck as well.
Yeah, King Cohen. Shout out Salakala from WFAN. Steve Cohen, their owner. Well, he has more money than all of us sitting here watching and broadcasting on this network. You need another bullpen arm. You definitely need a starter, because you mentioned the injuries to the back end of their rotation. And things are not going well for the Mets right now. They have all the offensive talent, as you mentioned, but it's all about the pitching, especially come playoff time. They found that out last year going up against a Dodgers team that was very stacked. But here's the thing about the New York Mets: will they ever get their pitching situation turned around? Because if they do, they can't be on that same level with the Dodgers. But right now, they're not. And we talk about the ebb and flows of the season. Hopefully, this is just an ugly stretch they're going through right now. But this continues for another week or two until the All-Star break. I think you really have major issues.
Yeah, I know the folks in Queens are not very happy right now. I've listened to New York sports radio, and yeah, does it say that Mets fans are pissed is understatement? So we'll see if they can try to get it going this week before the trade deadline, or else they might be, like I said, they might be trading off some guys. We'll see.
King Cole, do something.
Exactly. Going to the set show, the Brewers. Thank you, Rockies, for winning that game in extras, preventing for them to get sweep, and of course giving the Cubs a little breathing room there. Thank you, Orlando Arcia. I know Credit Priest has been pitching very well for the Brewers. I know Jackson Giroux's 3-run home run. I know that helped kick off that series for the Brewers, but like I said, I think the Brewers are more concerned within the Cubs. Of course, we know about Jared Mizorowski. I mean, I'm like I said, the Brewers are I'm more concerned with the Brewers than on the Cardinals. Like I said, we saw it with the Cardinals last year. They were right there in El Central. We saw what happened not too long right before the All-Star break and going into after the All-Star break. So I'm not too concerned about the Cardinals yet. But again, the Brewers are if you're the Cubs, I think the Brewers should be your top concern. I feel like.
Let's not forget about Freddie Peralta too. He pitches well, especially against the Cubs. So their starting rotation is very underrated, but it's very good as well. And Christian Yelich, the ageless veteran, is still hanging around, so he's contributing mightily as well. And as you mentioned about the St. Louis Cardinals, they did complete the sweep of the Cleveland Guardians over the weekend. They won the series finale yesterday with a great shutout of 7-0. As I told you about Cleveland, I'm not a believer in them yesterday. I know I forgot who went down yesterday. He had to be carted off the field for the Guardians, but injuries are starting to hit the Guardians. Their pitching has not been great. You saw that this past weekend, and I'm not going to say you need to back up the truck, even though we did talk about Emmanuel Clase, their closer. He may be available on the market, but we'll see how the rest of the first half goes before the All-Star break. Cleveland is 40-42 right now. If you're not at 500 by the time the trade deadline comes a month from today, actually a month from tomorrow, so this broadcast, you may have to back up the trade. You may have to trade more than just Emmanuel Clase. I'm just saying.
Like, so the next 2 weeks are going to be pivotal for some of those teams that are kind of like right near the borderline of being right there in the playoff hunt. So going to be interesting these next couple of weeks. Now, going to the schedule, you have to bear with us here because we're going to do the whole, almost the whole week. We'll bear with us. Of course, San Diego and Philadelphia. That should be a fun match. And the first game of that series will be on MLB Network at 5:25 later today. St. Louis and Pittsburgh. The Yankees and the Blue Jays, that should be a fun series. Always is when those two teams play each other. Cincinnati and Boston at Fenway Park. The A's and Tampa Bay. The A's are concluding their East Coast trip. Baltimore and Texas. Kansas City and Seattle. And for tonight, San Francisco and Arizona. The first game of that series will be on FS1 at 8:40 tonight.
This series that will be starting tomorrow are as follows. Minnesota will travel to South Beach to take on the Miami Marlins. St. Louis will head to Pittsburgh and take on the Pirates in Steel City. The Detroit Tigers will take on Washington, our nation's capital. The Milwaukee Brewers will head to New York to take on the Mets in Citi Field in Queens. The Los Angeles Angels will take on the Atlanta Braves. Big series for both teams there. Baltimore and Texas will get it on in Arlington. Cleveland and LaKeena Chicago Cubs will start their 3-game series tomorrow at Wrigley. The first game, as I mentioned earlier, nationally can be seen on TBS, locally in Chicago on Marquee. Houston will go to Colorado to face the Rockies. Kansas City will play LaKeena's other favorite team, the Seattle Mariners. San Francisco, Arizona. And the MLB Tuesday night feature showcasing will feature the Chicago White Sox against the Los Angeles Dodgers.
Going to Wednesday, MLB regional coverage, St. Louis and Pittsburgh. They're finishing up that series, as well as the Padres and the Phillies. The prime video game will be the Yankees and the Blue Jays. ESPN Wednesday Night Baseball will have the Cubs hosting the Guardians. And the Dodgers and the White Sox finish up their series. That game will be on MLB Network.
All right, your national television schedule for Thursday looks like this. Regional action will have Minnesota at Miami, followed by Houston at Colorado. Others will get the Yankees at Toronto. And then your primetime game for Thursday, also on MLB Network, will feature the Cleveland Indians. Oh, I almost said it. The Cleveland Guardians against the Chicago Cubs. And the series that will start on Thursday will be Kansas City at Seattle.
And going to the long 4th of July weekend, starting on July 4th, MLB Network, an early game here. You got Boston and the Nationals at 10:05 Chicago time, Cincinnati and Philadelphia. Of course, the first game of the Cardinals-Cubs series will be on Apple TV Plus, as I mentioned earlier. The Battle of the Boroughs, you got the Yankees and the Mets. That should be an interesting one on MLB Network.
Mm-hmm.
The first game of that series, Tampa Bay and Minnesota. Seattle and Pittsburgh. MLB Network, they'll have this game, Texas and San Diego. And the second game of the Apple TV Plus, they'll head for the 4th. You got the Angels and Toronto.
All right, finishing out your 4th of July weekend schedule looks like this. Detroit will face Cleveland, Milwaukee at Miami, Baltimore at Atlanta, the White Sox at Colorado, Houston at Los Angeles to take on the Dodgers, the rematch of the 2017 World Series. You won't see Yu Darvish if you're a Dodgers fan. Bad joke. Kansas City will take on the Arizona Diamondbacks, and San Francisco will face the Oakland Athletics of Sacramento in the Bay Series. We can still call it that.
NorCal, I guess.
NorCal down for this weekend. Your national television.
NorCal, I guess you could probably say NorCal.
The NorCal series. Okay. All right. All right. Your Saturday TV schedule, July the 5th, looks like this. On FS1, you'll have the Yankees in the Mets at 3:10 p.m. on FS1. Your Fox Saturday night baseball game of the week looks like this. Most of the country will get Houston at the Dodgers, while others will get Detroit at Cleveland. Coverage will begin at 6 o'clock p.m. on Saturday on Fox. Your Fox Sports Saturday night game, Fox Sports 1 Saturday night game will feature Pittsburgh at Seattle. And on MLB Network at 8:30 on Saturday will feature Texas at San Diego. And your Sunday night baseball game of the week, if I can find it here real quick, will feature the Texas Rangers and the San Diego Padres at 8:10, followed by the Cardinals and the Cubs at 5:10 p.m. from Chicago.
And also your Roku.
And that's your schedule for MLB for this upcoming weekend, long weekend.
Oh, don't forget, if you got Roku, Roku, you got Baltimore and Atlanta finished up that series at 10:35. So that's your Roku matchup for that one.
All right, hour number one's doors are closed shut. Hour number two's doors will open up following these messages as you listen to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. The Bulls are still making moves. Where are they going? Where are they going? We have some NFL content coming up where we're going to try to help you with your upcoming fantasy football drafts. I know it's a couple of months away for most of us, but we have an interesting list from our good friends at Yahoo Sports. LaKeena will give us her ladies and men's Wimbledon tennis update, and we'll have a special edition of Old School TV Monday and a whole lot more. As you can say right here on Sports Show Chicago.
Hey, it's your boy, the Superback, Sean Sierra, and be sure to follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms. On Facebook, Instagram, and our Roku channel, you can find us at Sports Zone Chicago. And on Twitter, we are at Sports Zone Shy. Also, be sure to download our mobile app so you can take Sports Zone Chicago with you on the go.
How do you take care of your mind health?
For my mental health, I meditate in the mornings.
I have my dogs. They're the best.
I just find ways that help me just relax.
Finding things that make me happy, like being close to my family.
I meditate a lot and read books.
I have hobbies outside of the game. I'm able to switch off. I'm able to turn my brain off from the game of basketball.
Your mind health matters.
Your mind health matters.
It's a romance sport. What? It's a romance sport like that.
Your Marine Corps' way of life is to defend the American way of life. Every day, no matter where we serve, we take a stand for our nation, for each other, for us all. The few, the proud, the Marines.
Everybody in a work zone is someone's somebody.
This is my mom. She works for KDOT.
This is my dad.
This is my mom.
This is my daddy.
This is my sister.
This is my daddy.
This is my son, Scott. He was killed while working in a highway work zone. When you drive through a work zone, drive like a life depends on it. Because it does.
All right, and welcome back to Second Seed Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. We're hour number 2. You can follow me at LaKeena Mcee on the Twitter, execute screen, and IG. Waiting for our buddy Sid to come back in such a second here, but you follow him at SidKid80 right there. SidKid80 on the Twitter, X, and the IG. And of course, we're about to
Hello,
talk
folks. I'm back.
Yes, and of course, as we get into some NFL and NBA talk. Of course, if you got comments on the Cubs, White Sox, MLB, or if you got some thoughts on some of this NBA and NFL news we're going to be talking about here, you can comment on Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook, YouTube channels, and we'll have your comments posted right there on the screen.
All right, LaKeena, let's get into some NBA talk. First, we'll start out locally with the Chicago Bulls. The Bulls decided to send Lonzo Ball to the Cleveland Cavaliers in exchange for a backup player. Okay, I'm looking at this deal, LaKeena. We talked about this on our last episode on Friday. Lonzo Ball resigned with the Bulls at the time to a 2-year, $20 million contract. That's $10 million per year for those of you scoring at home. We said that Lonzo Ball wasn't going to be a part of this team for the foreseeable future, and the Bulls admitted out loud that they are transitioning, which means they're rebuilding. So Lonzo Ball had a fit for a couple of teams like Dallas and maybe some of the other contending teams, but going with the Cleveland we talked about should he if Darius Garland gets hurt again, I think Lonzo Ball can step in and do a good job. But he's going to be a nice veteran point guard for those young guys for Cleveland. And Cleveland just bolstered up their guard rotation.
What are the Bulls doing? That's what I want to know. I mean, they didn't get a draft pick for him. So what was the point of this trade? Like just because so you can get younger, get a guy who he's been okay, but he's not like a guy that kind of will turn the world upside down, if you will. So what exactly are AK and Eversley trying to do here? That's what I'm trying to figure out. You're trying to go younger. Okay, what is the plan? Like, I've listened to our buddies, of course, over at CHGO Bulls, of course, our buddies, longtime friends of the show, Matt Peck, Big Dave Watson, and also Will Gottlieb, who does a great job as well. It's just like, what is this? What is this? What is all this supposed to mean? Like, I honestly don't get it. I don't get it. So do you get it? I just don't get it.
We know what the plan is. I don't know if they're going by it the right way. I think that's the main issue. They told you what the plan was during their press conference following the draft last week, but they're clearly not going about it the right way. I think what the league is telling them, whatever few pieces they have, it's not worth as much as you think. And number two, as you said, and I've been saying this for the last couple of years, the Bulls need picks, first-round picks. We know that this year's draft wasn't about the superstar names. It wasn't a year for that, but the Bulls need first-round picks, kind of like what Sam Presti has with OKC, kind of to a lesser extent what Danny Ainge has in Utah. The Bulls don't have that. They did all these moves to get their own draft pick back when they traded DeMar and Zach away back to Sacramento at the trade deadline. But you need first-round picks, and it seems to me from outside looking in, you trying to take shortcuts to get get this thing back on track. That's what happens when you're stuck in mediocrity. You're stuck in NBA hell. It looks ugly. It looks desperate. And it just looks like pure trash. And that's what we're experiencing on the West Side right now.
Yeah, Isaac Okoro, who I remember, he played for Bruce Pearl. He was actually one of Bruce Pearl's first big recruits from Auburn. He was actually a top 5 pick in 2020 during the bubble NBA draft, however they did it back in 2020. He didn't really, unfortunately, he didn't really set the world on fire. Like I said, average 6 points a game, a little over 2 rebounds. He has a free field goal percentage is about 46%. So solid, okay guy. But again, is he just gonna be a guy that's gonna eat up minutes for Billy Donovan? And do you wonder if Billy Donovan how much of a hand he had in this whole thing? And if you're Nikola Vucevic, if you're Vuce, you're probably thinking, where am I at? Like where do I fit in all this? So you wonder, are they gonna have to? They're gonna have to trade him because he's not gonna want to play with a bunch of young guys. So
exactly,
I don't know if it's gonna build on something bigger with Vuce, but I don't know. But yeah, if I were Vuce, I'd be a little miffed right now.
Yeah. We talked about it on the show countless times, including last week, that Vucevic, he's getting up there in the twilight of his career. He's still very good. He can still shoot the ball from the outside. He can score in the post when he has to match up in his favor. But he's been around for a long time, and he saw that with the Orlando Magic early in his career. Well, it's time for transition. I want to get out of here. Of course, he was traded here. And now with this team rebuilding, I'm Vucevic. I don't want to be here either. There's a couple teams that could use, a few teams that could use it right now. The Boston Celtics, the New York Knicks, of course, Golden State Warriors can use them. So I don't think the Lakers will have enough to get him. We'll talk about them in a second, but there's about 4 or 5 teams that can still use Vucevic's services. And the longer the Bulls hang on to him, I think the uglier is going to get. I'm not saying Vucevic's like a cancer guy in the locker room. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying he's going to put up a fuss that's going to ruin everything for the current team, but the frustration will be real the longer you have him on your roster. In a perfect world, you want to have him out of here by the start of training camp. But if you keep him around until February, maybe you can get a little bit extra, but I don't think so. You'll get something, but if you really think that you're going to get what you want from him, if you hold on to him until February's trade deadline, you're crazy.
What about Minnesota? I know Julius Randle just signed a new deal to stay with the T-Wolves. I know they actually just signed Joe Ingles to a 1-year deal. Talk about Minnesota, and remember, A-Rod's Alex Rodriguez, not Anthony Rodriguez, but Alex Rodriguez is part of the ownership group now, so I'm sure they're going to want to spend. So perhaps, Vooch to Minnesota, perhaps, maybe, who knows? But
that's
like
gonna be tough.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was that's gonna be tough. Remember, they just signed Nas Reed as well. He was big in their playoff run this year, so that's gonna be a crowded field. Unless Minnesota's ready to give up on one of those players, I don't see Vucevic. Could he help? Sure. And let's not forget you got Rudy Gobert also as well. So I know you're not a big fan of him, but that's a crowded field. They could use him, but it's just a crowded field with those young guys, especially on their front line. They did very well for them until they got to the Western Conference Final against the OKC Thunder.
Yeah, a new 3-year, $100 million deal for Randall. So he got his money. We'll go on to talk about the Lakers. LeBron has picked up his option. He's going to get paid $52.6 million. Must be nice. And, they're building. I know he knows. I know his longtime agent, Rich Paul, says that LeBron knows that the Lakers are building for the future, but he values a realistic chance of winning it all there. Maybe so, but like I said, remember they got a new ownership group taking over, and you got a guy that's willing to spend. So maybe LeBron wants to try one more time to get another ring. I don't know.
Yeah, they're gonna have some work to do. I don't know how much they're over the salary cap after this move, but they got GM Rob Pelinka's gonna have to get creative. You still have LeBron, you still have Luka, and from what I've read and heard, that he's in the quote unquote best shape of his life. I'll believe it when I see it. I'm not saying those reports are not true, but I'll believe it when I see when they report to training camp coming up here in late September, early October. But we said this after the Lakers got eliminated by the T-Wolves in last year's playoffs. They need a wingman and they need a big guy. Where are they going to get those? I don't know.
Going to be very interesting to see what the Lakers do here. Some of the other moves. Duncan Robinson declined his $20 million early termination option. He'll become a free agent. He will work with the franchise to get a new contract, or perhaps maybe even move elsewhere. So maybe he might be out there on the market too. We'll see. In Utah, they've been pretty busy this offseason. They trade Colin Sexton and a 2030 second round pick to Charlotte for Yusuf Nurkic, one of his favorite big guys.
Yeah, Utah's doing something. Charlotte, what are they doing? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm thinking that Sexton's going to want to buy out from Charlotte, but we'll see. All right, so
go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna bring up a person that will not hit the free agent market is James Harden. He's just resigned signed with the Los Angeles Clippers. So we talked about it this past season. Him and Kawhi worked really well together, especially after Kawhi's minutes restrictions were taken off following the All-Star break. They worked well together in that Denver series, except for Game 7, where the whole team forgot to show up in the second half. But I digress on that. But the Clippers had a nice season. James Harden had a nice bounce back season, in my opinion. When you take the pressure off him, put him in his natural position as being the playmaker at the point guard position, even though he's technically not a point guard, where you take the ball out of his hands and you have other scorers around him, that makes James Harden that much better of a player. We saw that throughout this last past season.
Yeah, 2 years, $81.5 million for Mr. Harden. So, Steve Ballmer, we know he likes to spend too. So we'll see if they make more moves. How about the Clippers do? So yeah, that's gonna be interesting to see what happens there.
Yep.
And we got another one here, Bobby Portis. He's gonna sign a 3-year, $44 million deal to stay with the Bucks. I know he had a player option. He'll have that player option for 27-28. So. He's staying there, but what are the Bucks doing? Who knows? Because we know Dame is going to be out most, if not all, of next season with that torn Achilles. Giannis wants out apparently. So if you're the Bucks, what do you do?
I think if you're Bobby Portis, maybe you ask the management if they're there for sure and keeping Giannis. If they weren't, I'm sure you probably should have asked out, but I think this is more about money first for him and foremost. That's probably why he signed that contract. But if it's about winning, if Giannis wants out, I'm not so sure if that was the best decision for him. But we'll see what happens. And we talked about it before, like going back to Giannis. Realistically, Milwaukee's going to ask for a bunch of first-round picks. I mean, they're going to get, I'm not sure, maybe 2, maybe 3, I don't know. But there's only barely a handful of teams that can actually acquire by his services. So, if that's the case, what is his real value? I'm talking about Giannis out there in that trade market. He's not coming to Chicago, so you can forget that. I don't think he's going to the New York Knicks, even though the league would love to see it, but I don't think he's going there. Denver, no. San Antonio, no. The Lakers, I don't know who are they going to give up for LeBron, and I don't know how many first round picks they have left.
Oh boy, yeah, that's going to be interesting to see what happens with Mr. Portis. Now, sticking to the Clippers, Nicholas Batum, of course, this just came less than a half hour ago. He'll sign a 2-year, $11.5 million deal to return to the Clippers. He was actually a really good asset for them there when going back to the Clippers. We'll see if they got more moves coming up. I'll talk about the Clippers, but yeah, some interesting NBA moves so far.
Yeah, a nice veteran piece for the Clippers. You mentioned he had a good year last year as a veteran that knows his role coming off the bench and giving you some solid minutes. So the Clippers need those solid veterans in that locker room. So he's one of them, and they're glad to have him back.
All right, and among some of the other moves here, we talked about the Joe Ingles. Zaire Williams, he is going to sign with the Nets. 2-year, $4.3 million. DeAndre Ayton is getting a buyout from the Blazers, so we'll see where he goes.
Watch him come into the Bulls.
Oh Lord, don't give AK any ideas. Houston got one of their young guys. He's going to stay with them for a bit. Jabari Smith Jr. He's going to sign a 5-year, $122 million rookie contract extension to stay with Houston. He was a big part of the Rockets. Gates get that top 3 seed last season, so they get to keep him into the fold. And the Thunder keeps one of their young guys as well, Asia Mitchell. He'll sign a new 3-year contract, $9 million after declining the team option, but he is coming back. So, like I said, I know people will say the Thunder, it's going to be a start of a dynasty. Well, I think people need to realize that the Thunder, it's hard to repeat. So we'll see where Sam Perez will have a lot to work with here. So we'll see how all this goes.
Shout out to our guy, Mr. Brandon Schutz in the Schultz. He's our guy down there from Houston. Nice to see you in the chat again. Thanks for your support. Tell everybody you know about our program. But going back to the Rockets, if you're the Rockets, as I said, you need that other big piece to go with Kevin Durant and Alpha Shagun. Thank goodness. I know they had to give up Jalen Green, that first-round pick, and a bunch of second-round picks, but thank goodness they had to give up Jabari Smith too. So, as you mentioned, he was another big young piece on that Rockets team last year. So you get to keep him. So the Rockets are forming to be a good team coming up next year. As of right now, I think they can get into the second round. Western Conference Finals, I think it's a stretch. It's definitely a bigger stretch as this roster, NBA Finals roster. No, not yet. They still need to make another big move. Where that's going to come from, I don't know. But this Rockets team, providing that everyone stays healthy, i.e. Kevin Durant, they can win a playoff series or two, but to get to that next level, in my opinion, they need to make another big move.
Could be very interesting. Like I said, well, I'm sure by the time we get back here on Monday, there's going to be even more trades and signings and such. So we'll have it all about it for you here on Second City Sports.
Yep. You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid LaKeena here with you. Let's transition over to the National Football League. I know we're still a few weeks away from training camp as we near the end of the month of June. We had a big trade involving the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Miami Dolphins. Tell us about it.
All right, I gotta get the notes here for it. It kind of came down, I think, like right before 10 a.m. Chicago time. The Steelers, the Dolphins have traded Jalen Ramsey. We talked about it a couple of weeks ago that he wants out of South Beach, and now he's been traded to the Dolphins. The Dolphins are getting Micah Fitzpatrick as part of that deal, and I think a first-round pick as well. I got to go to Mr. Adam Schefter's Twitter X feed, but they added in Bill Fitzpatrick, and I think Juju Smith. Of course, he's going to Pittsburgh. And a 2027 7th-round pick, while the Dolphins will get Micah Fitzpatrick, also a 2027 5th-round pick. This is a very interesting trade to say the least for both teams. And if you saw Tyreek Hill's Twitter X account, of course, you had that meme from from the last episode of Fresh Prince, of course, with Will looking around, seeing where's everybody at, and starting to cry.
Oh, the empty room, yeah.
Yeah, so the empty living room. That's the last episode of the Fresh Prince. So you basically kind of put that up there. Don't know what that means, but yeah. What do you think about this trade? It's very interesting, I'll say.
Yeah, we know the Miami Dolphins. They had injury issues last year with Tua Tagovailoa. Their defense wasn't that great last year, unlike the year before. I guess they're trying to retool on the fly. I don't know. So I kind of have a question mark from the Dolphins side of things. On the Pittsburgh side of things, especially with Aaron Rodgers saying that this is his last year. No kidding, right? We talked about it on our last episode. It looks like my Tomlin, the Steelers organization, they're all in. They're trying to win now. And with Jalen Ramsey getting up there age, he's still very good. But the Pittsburgh Steelers are sending the message that they want to win and will win right now. And that's what I see from the black and gold crew.
Yeah, I mentioned that they get rid of Fitzpatrick to Sapp. If not, that I know they got Darius Slay, but of course they got DK Metcalf and of course Aaron Rodgers. But it's gonna be interesting what the Steelers are gonna do here. I know some people say that this will make Steelers one of the favorites in the AFC North, but I don't know. I mean, there might not be a fit there, but again, we'll see. But yeah. Of course, Juju Smith reunites with Arthur Smith over there. Please new OC there now with the Steelers. So we'll see. But it's definitely a shrug trade. I don't know. Like it's hard to say that whether this is a good trade for both sides until both these teams start playing. But again, of course, their defense. T.J. Watt. We'll talk about him in a second because there's some news that came out there. Cam Hayward, Alex Highsmith, Darius Slay, Joey Porter Jr. Among others. Of course, now you added Ramsey to the mix. That might actually be a good defense, but again, we'll have to wait and see once training camp and stuff like that starts. But I don't know.
Yeah, like I said, this is a great move for Pittsburgh on paper. They're trying to go forward now, but of course, they should think that they're one of the top contenders in the AFC. But in their own division, as you mentioned, I think Cincinnati is going to have a potential have a bounce back year. Let's not forget Baltimore Ravens. Even though they had that big gap to end their season last year in the division around that Buffalo, if Lamar Jackson is still healthy like he was the majority of last year, they're going to become a problem. So for the Pittsburgh Steelers, can you beat Baltimore at least once? And can you beat Cincinnati at least once? If you can, I think you'll be right there to compete for the playoffs. Let's not forget, it's been 8 years going into 9 years this coming season that the Pittsburgh Steelers actually won a playoff game. So pressure is on head coach Mike Tomlin to get this right because they got away with it over the last few years for not having at least above average quarterback play. And now, including the last couple of years of Ben Roethlisberger's soon to be Hall of Fame career.
And also this news that just came out within the last, 45 minutes. I guess TJ Watt, who skipped, the most recent mini camps, he usually is there. He's not happy with his contract, I guess, and I guess the Steelers have said that they've been adamant that they want to trade him, but he apparently wants out of Pittsburgh. Again, depending on who you talk to. But I don't know. Again, we'll see. I mean, you got guys that are Watt will be 32. Aaron Rodgers is in his 40s. DK Metcalf's 29. Geno Smith is 27 or something like that. Darius Slay is he'll be 33 or 34 when the season starts. So, you hope that these older guys can produce. But yeah, this whole thing might be something to watch out for. Who knows? We'll see.
We know that when you get to the age of 29 and 30 in NFL years, that's senior citizens age, and I would think that the Rooneys will get their heads together and keep Watt because he's one of the best the defensive linemen in the league, and that Steelers defense will suffer if he's not there. We saw that in the last couple of years, the games that he's missed, that Steelers defense got exposed. But just imagine, LaKeena, I don't think it's going to happen, but stranger things have happened before. Let's just say he becomes available in the open market. If you're Ryan Poles, bringing it back home here to Chicago, if you're GM Ryan Poles of the Bears, you don't think it's going to take that much to get get Mr. White, would you? Like you said, he's age 32. He's one of the best the defensive linemen in the game. I don't think it will take too much for a 32-year-old to come here. Okay, you give up a 1 first-round pick. I'm not gonna give an overhaul for TJ Watt. Yes, he's good. He is 32 years old, but I'm not gonna have to give up that much to acquire by his services if that scenario would occur, would happen to occur.
Yeah, I know there've been a lot of teams. Like I said, Pittsburgh's very adamant they're not going to trade him. So, but again, you never know. This could change within the next few weeks before the start of camp. Does he, hold out, over a trading camp when they start their trading camps in a few weeks? But yeah, that is kind of like to be continued with this one. So, going to be very interesting over there in Pittsburgh, not just with Aaron Rodgers, but whether or not TJ Watt shows up.
Yep. We have a month and a day until most teams start training camp here coming in preparation for the 2025 National Football League season.
All right, we'll give you some little cheat sheets for your fantasy football leagues. It's never too early to prep for that. Your Wimbledon update, Old School TV Monday, and so much more to do our spokes potpourri segment. LaKeena, Mcee, Stay Brown, Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Our potpourri 7 coming up right after this.
Hey, it's your boy, the Superback, Sean Sierra, and be sure to follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, Instagram, and our Roku channel. You can find us at Sports Zone Chicago, and on Twitter, we are at Sports Zone Shy. Also, be sure to download our mobile app so you can take Sports Zone Chicago with you on the go.
Got it done here. Ouch! And we're gonna make sure you lit this time. Ouch! You're not gonna get me this time.
Ow, Manny!
Whoops! Let's try an easy one.
Every day, we take steps to keep the people we love safe, but some health risks are easy to miss. Ticks hiding in the yard can spread germs, like the ones that cause Lyme disease. Mice searching for food can spread bacteria that makes us sick. Mosquitoes lay eggs in standing water and can spread West Nile virus and more. Cockroaches are drawn to water in the home, leaving behind allergens that can trigger asthma attacks. Common pests can threaten our health. Learn how to protect your family at pestworld.org.
Hey, this is Corey Maggette, and I listen to Sean and Maya on the morning show.
Welcome back to Second City Sports on the Monday extravaganza edition of the program. You're locked and loaded, and we're live in the living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid, that's LaKeena. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow McKee on the Twitter, execute again on IG.
This is our last break of the show for today and for our short week. If you have any last minute questions or comments for us or any other topics that we discussed thus far on today's show as we enter in our sports potpourri segment, you can definitely hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments to the comment section of the kingdom. We'll get them up on the screen for you.
All right, Sid. We got our fantasy footballs. I know there's a couple months before the drafts and stuff, but it's never too early to to think about what to look for when you're doing your drafts and stuff like that. Your defenses, sleepers, guys that you probably get perhaps maybe on the top value. So Sid, I know you had another list for us when it comes to this.
Yeah, well, focusing on the running backs today, and I saw this courtesy of our good friends at Yahoo Sports. I'll start from 10 up. Well, they had the top 10 list of the top 10 list of running backs that you should draft for this upcoming 2025 season. We'll start from number 10 and up. Bucky Irving of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Of course, he took the reins from Rashard White midway through the season to help Tampa Bay reach the playoffs again and win that trash NFC South Division title. Bucky Irving, I think, is going to have a big year this year. Number 9, Josh Jacobs of the Green Bay Packers. And we liked this move at the time. We were questioning it, but as the season went on last year, I kind of liked the move. But let's not forget Jordan Love was injured all of last year, starting with that bruised knee in that opening game in Brazil against Philadelphia. Of course, he had that groin injury midway through the year against Jacksonville. But if he was healthy, I thought that Josh Jacobs' numbers would have been bigger. But if Jordan Love stays healthy, I think that Josh Jacobs' numbers will be bigger this year than it was last year. At number 8, Devon Achane of the Miami Dolphins. Now, his success is going to depend on the health of Tua Tagovailoa. No question about it. Like a couple years ago, if Tua's healthy, then Miami Dolphins offense is explosive. If Tua's out for any extended period of time like he was last year, Devon Achane will not be on his top 10 list.
Could be very interesting though to see, especially if he can actually be a good, if he'll be even better than he was last year. So I think that's really the number one question I have with him. Can he keep producing?
At number 7, Jonathan Taylor from the Indianapolis Colts. Is all going to depend on Anthony Richardson. Hopefully he doesn't check out of a game on his own merit ever again. I know that the backup is Daniel Jones, the former Minnesota Viking, the former longtime New York Giants. So I think for Jonathan Taylor, if he didn't miss that much time last year, he didn't fumble that ball. I believe it was against the Denver Broncos, if I'm not mistaken, last year. The Colts, despite all that foolishness, would have been at least in the playoffs. So I think, and once again, like we talked about with Devon Achane just a moment ago, Jonathan Taylor's success will depend on who starts at quarterback for the Colts this year, i.e. Anthony Richardson. So if he gets it right, Jonathan Taylor's numbers will be that much greater. And at number 6, we have Christian McCaffrey of the San Francisco 49ers. We talked about McCaffrey's injury issues a year ago. That whole team was riddled by injuries. That's why they missed the playoffs. But Christian McCaffrey, he's back this year. We saw a couple of running backs for the San Francisco 49ers had good years last year. If they could take some of that pressure off of Christian McCaffrey, I think McCaffrey is still going to have a big year. But it's all going to depend about the health of Brock Purdy, who got fresh paper in the offseason as well. So I think Christian McCaffrey, he stays healthy, and those running backs that performed well in his absence last year, if they can have similar years, I think Christian McCaffrey could definitely be a top 10 running back this year.
Yeah, I think he can be. Like I said, I think the injuries have become a problem for him, and you have even bigger numbers. So I think that's going to be the key, especially for him and that 49ers offense. You saw what happened without him. The running backs on the back end did step up, but again, the 49ers as a whole struggle. They've got a quote-unquote easy schedule, so that could help them a little bit, but, that'll be interesting to see what happens there.
All right, we'll finish out the top 10 list. Starting at number 5, Ashton Jeanty, the rookie running back for the Las Vegas Raiders. He was drafted out of Boise State. We saw what he did in college last year, carrying the Boise State Broncos squad to the college football playoff. I know he has Geno Smith as his quarterback. I don't know what are the big rabbits that the Raiders have, but should Geno Smith struggle and or get hurt, Mr. Genty may see 8, 9 men in the box, and if that's the case, I think it's going to be tough for him. I'm rooting for the young man personally, but if the big show of the Raiders office is leaned on Genty, it's going to be tough, especially if Geno Smith is inconsistent and the other weapons around him don't step up. We know that new head coach Pete Carroll loves to run the ball, so hope actually Genty has his legs ready. But if everything else around him is not up to par, it's going to be a tough year for him.
Yeah, I think Genty, that's really going to be the thing here. Because when I saw that, like, yeah, you know how much, like you said, Carroll loves to run the ball. We know that's in all the various stops. So yeah, he's in the right place about Genty. But yeah, will he have enough on the gas? Because remember, there's a lot of wear and tear, a lot, over at Boise State those last couple of years. So.
Yep. Checking in at number 4, we have King Henry. Yes, Derrick Henry of the Baltimore Ravens. We saw he had a resurgent year last year with the Baltimore Ravens, and if Lamar Jackson stays healthy again like he did a year ago, I think Derrick Henry will be effective again. He can still occasionally give you the 25-plus carries a ball game. He was healthy for the majority of last year. He was in a conversation for a minute for MVP, but if Derrick Henry stays healthy like he did a year ago, you can expect to have another monster year from him.
Yeah, I think he's definitely going to be up there. And like I say, as long as he avoids injuries, and he was able to do that last year. So I'm sure we'll see if John Harbaugh uses him a lot. I don't think he's going to use him that much, but it'll be interesting to see. Like I said, we'll see. I mean, he was a good tandem with Lamar last year. That way, he didn't have to use his legs very much. So, and also he does have a couple of good backups behind him. So we may not see him as much as we did. But again, I think we'll just see how Justice Hill and Keaton Mitchell. I think those guys are a good backup. Especially Hill is a good backup tandem behind him. Yeah. So yeah, we'll see. We'll definitely see. But yeah, I think Henry's definitely be the one to watch for on the running back side this year.
Interesting selection here at number 3, according to our good friends at Yahoo Sports. Top 10 running backs you should consider drafting this year. Number 3, Jahmyr Gibbs of the Detroit Lions. Yes, Jahmyr Gibbs had a good second year last year. Yes, you have Jared Goff. Yes, you have Amon St. Brown. Yes, you have Reynolds. And you still have a couple other big weapons, including Sam Laporta at tight end entering his 3rd year. But you have a new offensive coordinator. You have to learn a new playbook. Ben Johnson isn't there anymore. I think Jahmyr Gibbs can still have a good year, but you still had to get used to another system. And I think, like I said, I'm not going to give my pick away what I think Detroit's going to do this year. We'll save that for after training camp. But I don't know. Ben Johnson's not there anymore. You still have his quote unquote his players, but you can't use all of his same plays because that's with him right now in Chicago or with the Bears. So I think Jahmyr Gibbs is going to have a nice year, but all the pressure now is going to be on Detroit, and defense is going to it will come after Jared Goff that much harder. So, and if that's the case with you, it will be. Will Jahmyr Gibbs be one of those guys to pick up the slack? I'm not sure. Maybe just me. I think I would have had him lower. Like in that last group, maybe in the teams, we'll get to some of the lists and the teams, names in the teams that I saw that was interesting coming up. But Jahmyr Gibbs, number 3, maybe I'm missing something, I don't know, but I wouldn't rank them that high. That's just me.
Yeah, I mean, like John Morton takes over as a OC over there in Detroit. He's been there for a few years, so I'm sure they'll use some of his Johnson's various plays. I thought we'd always go add his own style to it. Maybe that's why they have him Gibbs up that high. But again, we'll see. I mean, but again, that's going to be interesting. It's interesting though, because I think a lot of the guys that they promoted from within. So there's going to be a lot of comfort level there. So again, yeah, we'll see what Gibbs does. I don't know if he's going to have the big year like he did last year, but I think he'll definitely have his moments there. So we'll see what Morton does with that offense.
And let's not forget David Montgomery is his backup. We said last year, right before Montgomery got hurt, they were the best 1-2 tandem as far as running backs in the league. So those numbers, what David Montgomery does impacts what Jahmyr Gibbs does on the field as well. Checking in at number 2, Bijan Robinson at the Atlanta Falcons. I know some people say, why he up there ranked that high? Well, he has a better quarterback at his right hip now. His name is Michael Penix Jr. You saw what his production was last year with Kirk Cousins. Not good, but when Michael Penix Jr. was in it, Bijan Robinson was more effective. He had a better year last year overall, but when Michael Penix Jr. not being the quarterback, for the entire year, I think Bijan Robinson is going to have a better year than he did a year ago, even though last year was improved from his rookie year.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting though, like with Penix there as the QB. I think that's going to be fascinating to see what Robinson does. And he was right there in the thick of it for the rushing title. If they again, we'll see if they give him the ball a little bit more, so that way Penix won't have to run too much. So yeah, I think he might be a guy that might have a breakout year this year.
And checking in at number 1 is Saquon Barkley of the world champion Philadelphia Eagles. You know what he did last year. He sat out last year's game, didn't want to break Eric Dickerson's overall rushing record for over 2,000 yards, but in a season. But Saquon, as we said last year, LaKeena, he took the pressure off of Jalen Hurts. You saw his value definitely in the playoffs. Didn't have a great Super Bowl, but it didn't matter because the defense took care of the Chiefs. And Saquon Barkley, now the new cover man for Madden NFL 26. The move by the Philadelphia front office was worth it. Got him a Super Bowl ring.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said. I mean, he's definitely the guy that bet on himself, and he ended up doing just that. Like I said, didn't have the best Super Bowl, but they really didn't need. He didn't need to. So that's fine. But yeah, we just see what happens with him this year. Now, will Nick Sirianni kind of keep it kind of like 100 and not have him carry the ball too much and maybe spread it out a little bit? Because remember, with Kellen Moore gone down to New Orleans, you got Kevin Patullo, and we'll see what he kind of brings to the table there too. Like he may want to change up a little bit and perhaps keep that continuity there. Like he will probably use Barkley, but he may not use it that much. So, but we'll see what Patullo does with that Eagles offense.
Now, before I get to the other names on this list, bringing it back to Chicago, where's DeAndre Swift on this list? So the new coaching staff doesn't like him. How is he going to be used this year? Where was he ranked? I'll tell you, according to Yahoo Sports, DeAndre Swift is ranked number 24. I think if the Bears offensive line stays healthy and if the receivers can do what they're supposed to do, i.e. DJ Moore, Roma Dunze, and of course, tight end Colston Loveland, the rookie out of Michigan, I think DeAndre Swift would be more effective. LaKeena, I said last year when the Bears went 4-2, the offensive line, the last time that they looked competent and their running game was effective with DeAndre Swift. You saw the Bears went 4-2, and it took that much pressure off of Caleb Williams. After the Washington game, right down the toilet, they forgot about the running game for the rest of the year. So I think if the offensive line, new revamped offensive line stays healthy, and they get to use their weapons effectively, unlike the previous coaching staff, I think DeAndre Swift can have a good year. I think he could be a steal in some folks' fantasy football draft. I think he can. I'm not just saying it because, you're a homer and all that BS. No. I think DeAndre Swift can have a sneaky good year. Everything has to go right in front of him.
Yeah, I think the problem is going to be that that's going to be the kind of like the thing with that offense. That's going to be the thing here. So we'll see.
All right. A couple other names I saw jumping out on this list. Number 17, Joe Mixon of the Houston Texans. I know he was injured off and on last night when he was in there. C.J. Stroud had better numbers when Joe Mixon was out. C.J. Stroud struggled and took a step back in next year. I think Joe Mixon's going to have a good year this year. He's at number 17. Kenneth Walker III at number 18 for the Seattle Seahawks. He's going to be the vocal point of that offense now that DK Metcalf is not there anymore. I know they signed Sam Darnold to that contract, free agent QB out of Minnesota, but Kenneth Walker III, as of right now, he'll be the focal point of that Seattle offense. The second-year head coach, Mike McDonald.
Yeah, that's going to be like he had a good year last year. Of course, injuries kind of got him near the end of the season. But yeah, I think he definitely is poised for a breakout year, I think, especially now that they beef up that O-line.
Yeah, just a couple other names to point out here. Number 15, I think he could be another sneaky good play as RB2, especially in your fantasy football leagues. Chuba Hubbard of the Carolina Panthers. I think they're going to be another improved team potentially in the National Football League this year, given the fact that Bryce Young performed well, especially in the second half of the year after he got his job back from Andy Dalton. And Chuba Hubbard had some sneaky good performances last year, so I think people should watch out for him. Yahoo Sports has him ranked number 15.
Yeah, I think he definitely could be like right there, and like Carolina, they gave teams fits last year. I don't think they're going to be a little bit better now. Are they going to challenge Tampa and Atlanta for the playoffs? Maybe, maybe not. But I think they could definitely they can definitely win a couple more games than they did last year because they were right there, especially those last like 5 or 6 games. They were right there with basically most of them.
Okay, a couple other names just to wrap up this conversation. Chase Brown from the Cincinnati Bengals, a former Flying Illini standout. I think he's going to have a good year. I think that whole team is going to have a good year with the Bengals. And at number 13, James Cook of the Buffalo Bills.
Well, like I said, I mean, I'm sure. Look, Cook. I know you want him to start cooking more, so we'll see. That Bills offense, but yeah, that should be interesting too. I think he definitely could be poised for another year. They may give him the ball a little bit more.
Yeah, Sean McDermott, the formula worked last year. And until you ran against Kansas City, your defense, especially the secondary, got cooked. No pun intended. And Josh Allen almost lost the ball on the fourth down and quarterback sneak bad, which in that situation should have gave the ball to Cook, but that's neither here or there. But follow the same script this time, this upcoming season, Sean McDermott, and find some way to beat the Chiefs in the playoffs. You'll have a successful year. I'm just saying.
All right. Well, they'll definitely have more positional players as we get closer and closer to those fantasy drafts. So I'm sure there's going to be more names. So we'll definitely keep you guys abreast of it as we continue this. But with that said, ladies and gentlemen, I can see sports on Sports Chicago. LaKeena, Mcee, Sidney Brown with you down to the grass courts of Wimbledon as it's at the long over there in England. Madison Keys needed 3 sets, but she beat a qualifier from Romania. Also, Carlos Alcaraz needed 5 sets, but he beat an Italian player there. Also, Tiafoe won his first round match. Sabalenka won her first round match. So far, everything's pretty much. Although Neil Medvedev lost his match in 4 sets. So let me just see. Coco. Where's Coco at? Look, Coco doesn't play till tomorrow. So relax, folks. But But yeah, I mean, it's gonna be interesting to see what this matchup is. She was right there. She made it all the way to the quarters last year. No Keys, although she made it to the semis a few years back. We'll see if one of them comes in. As for the American men, Tiafoe, I know Taylor Fitz.
Hopefully, this is a breakthrough year for him. Not to cut you off, LaKeena, but I hope this is a breakthrough year for him because I know the U.S. Open. He was trying to knock on the door a couple of times, and Wimbledon. Almost there, but not quite. Hopefully, this is a breakthrough year for him.
I think he's due for one. So we'll see if it happens for him. Also, Chris Eubanks, he plays tomorrow morning as well for the Americans, also as well as Tommy Paul. So could we see a couple Americans from both the men's and women's side make a play here? We'll see. Jessica Pegula, she plays tomorrow as well. So we'll see if we'll see some of these American players in this next week, break out and get to that round of 16, perhaps give them within distance. But you got to think that, I know Yannick Sinner, I know he's a favorite. Also Alcaraz as well. Though, look, I said Alcaraz was pushed to 5 sets. So, he may be maybe a little bit here, a little. So, yeah, we'll just see what happens here over at Wimbledon.
Yeah, not to give any bad advertisement, Ray, but my Xfinity internet was screwing up this morning, so I couldn't really watch at least 5 minutes of Wimbledon. So I missed my girl Madison Key. So hopefully my internet service will stay solid so I could start watching this because unfortunately I couldn't watch it this morning because the internet and the service was acting up after I just paid my bill. But hopefully it stay on course so I can watch some of this because, like you said, outside the U.S. Open, LaKeena, as you well know, Wimbledon is the next best tennis tournament, in my opinion, on the planet.
Yeah, and also weather's also usually a factor here. Of course, in this case, it was high, like 93 degrees over there. So, yeah, that's gonna be that might be the issue. I think it's gonna be hot definitely like the first 3 or 4 days there. So, yeah, everyone, all of you who are gonna be playing, make sure you guys hydrate and rest up. And of course, you can watch Wimbledon coverage. At least that's 2 weeks on the ESPN Family Networks, on ESPN, ESPN2, and also on ESPN Plus.
All right, you're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. See LaKeena here with you. Coming up, we'll close out the program with Old School TV Monday, the special edition. But first, we had to hit you up with some sports media news. We'll get this out the way first. Sticking with basketball, the WNBA announces expansion to Cleveland, Detroit, and Philadelphia. 2 of those 3 cities will get second chances at a crack at having an WNBA franchise once again.
Yeah, it's good to see the expansion, but you wonder, you don't want to expand too much too quickly. At least now it looks like they're making a profit. So we'll see if they can get it going here. Now the roster is going to be an issue because will they have enough players to fill out those rosters in those leagues? That's what happened the last time they tried to expand like this. So you don't want to expand too much. It's good to see, but again, you want to have to be smart and perhaps maybe may have to adjust the rosters a little bit. But that could have been said.
Yeah, because I know the new franchise with the Valkyries out there and going to say they're doing very well this year and drawing folks to those games. Of course, the Anna Fever, whenever Caitlin Clark is healthy, they're always drawing sellout crowds there at Cambridge Field House. I know it used to be Conseco back in the Conseco Field House back in the day, but they usually draw well. And I know they were doing decent here in Chicago, even though the team stinks with the Chicago Sky. So we'll see what happens there. But Cleveland is getting a second crack. I remember they had the Cleveland Rockers back in the late 90s, and they disappeared after the first 3 or 4 years. And, of course, the Detroit Sharks, I think they won a title or two back some years ago, and then they disappeared. So hopefully those two cities will have better results the second time around.
Well, like I said, they're looking. Well, I think back then they weren't making a profit. Hopefully, they can make a profit now, and so that they can be able to still to keep these teams around for a little bit. But yeah, that's going to be the number one question here. A couple other ones. EA Sports, they announced the return of March Madness, a college football video game, using names and likeness. If you saw the previews throughout Twitter X and throughout social media, you saw Blake Griffin as part of that. This kind of all started with, of course, the Ed O'Bannon lawsuit from years ago, and this is sort of the settlement. So this is part of that settlement. So now we're going to be seeing folks from yesteryear's name and likeness. So that's going to be the thing here. And of course, with the rumors that maybe the March Madness might expand, this might be a perfect time for this to come about.
Again. LaKeena will be playing games until May, until Mother's Day. No offense on the holiday, but we'll be playing games until Mother's Day. Stop! Oh my goodness! But back to the actual subject. We were talking about this behind the curtain before we went on live, and you mentioned Ed O'Bannon's lawsuit a few years ago. Actually, started the small steps to what we have now with the name, image, and likeness. And I remember playing some of those games. LaKeena, of course, EA Sports is the creator of those old NBA Live franchises. All those games were good back in the 90s or early 2000s. After NBA Live 05, the quality started going down, in my opinion, and it just sucked from there. For those of you that want to check out the history of that video game, I'll go to right here on YouTube. I think it's Salt Drink TV, if I'm not mistaken. They give good commentary on the history of that video game, so check it out when you ever get a chance. But back to this. I remember in Emeka Okafor, LaKeena, he got drafted by the Charlotte Bobcats, and now back to the original Hornets. He was on Supersonics, now OKC Thunder. He was on the cover of one of those games, and I was like, it's funny that you used to their college image after they get drafted by the NBA. I thought for a long time there was just something fishy about that. You kind of knew what's going on, but still something didn't sit right in my stomach. It's like, the dirty dogs in the NCAA didn't like it.
Well, remember KD made the cover there in 2008, and so did Blake Griffin back in 2010. Remember? So I think that was after they were both drafted. So, and for those who want to guess, they're going to have women's players on there too. I know they're going to be some women are going to be like, "Why is a women player?" They're going to have women's players on there too, folks. Relax. But yeah, I mean that's going to be interesting to see. Like, it won't be out till 2028, so you have a little bit of time, but before that, but to get save up or whatever, or if you want to download it, depending on how they're gonna how they're gonna break this out. But it's good to see. So again, with the new world of NILs and everything else, and also a CBA perhaps. I know Danny White, who's the AD over at Tennessee, I know he's leading the charge for that, to have players to have a CBA type of thing. But so welcome to college sports in 2025, folks.
Yep, there it is. Now, going back to the NFL, the trailer for the upcoming Netflix series about the Dallas Cowboys was released. I didn't get a chance to see the whole thing. Like, I'm talking about the trailer, but I saw about maybe like 10 seconds of it. And I think we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. It looks like it's going to be about Jerry Jones, he talks about the Dallas Cowboys having being the like a soap opera, 365 days a
Mm-hmm.
year. And as I always say, Mr. Jerry Jones, whether you like the way he does business or not, he's an attention seeker, keeping it clean for the kids. But it looks like, at least from the parts that I saw, the trailer, it looks like it's going to be all about him. But it's going to be interesting to see the stories that he tells from those '90s Cowboys teams. We know some of them out there already, but what else do they have hiding in the cutting room edge floor? And what's some of those other stories that features him, and especially during? I wonder if they're going to cover the time of the whole Colin Kaepernick issue. We won't get into it here, but how much do they cover that at the time? Because remember, he was right in front of center. His players should kneel and blah blah blah. If they get into how much truth he's going to tell from that time.
Well, and all that stuff, with him and Jimmy Johnson. I know they're
Mm-hmm.
all good now, but they were not close during those early '90s and the glory years of that Cowboys dynasty. So yeah, we just see how far. I didn't see the trailer. I think I saw a little bit of it, but then I actually didn't want to watch it. So, but yeah, that's gonna be the fascinating part, is that how far do they go? But yeah, that's gonna be interesting.
Yeah. Sticking with football, but going back to college, I know you had some news about the Pac-12. But first, they talking about the new the Pac-12 rather, but the Big 12's decision to get rid of football preseason media poll, as according to our good friends at Awful announcer, they call it silly.
It is, because I know people don't want it, especially with you. I get it. Oklahoma, Texas, they're not there anymore. They're in the SEC. I get that, but I think it's kind of silly.
Mm-hmm.
You still got some really good teams, in that conference. You got BYU, you got Oklahoma State. We'll see how they look this year. Kansas, a lot of their guys are back. I know they had a very disappointing season last year. I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing how that, how they come. I know a lot of their guys are back, so I'm
Mm-hmm.
kind of like you got some good, you got both the Arizona squads. So I'm kind of like, yeah, I think it's kind of silly for them not to do the whole media poll thing. I get why they're not doing it anymore, but it's just like the Oracle said, it just seems kind of silly. But what do I know?
And speaking of the Pac-12, you said they had some more additions. I didn't know they came. I kind of knew that they came back. Looking, obviously, it's not going to be the same as it once was back just a few years ago. But they have some new additions, and we talked about this, I believe, a week or two ago. They have the new deal with CBS, so they get a national outlet. You ain't gonna see them that much, if not at all, on ESPN. But the Pac-12 is back and better than ever.
Well, we'll see. I mean, Texas State, that's in San Marcos. They're actually not too far from where Texas at Austin is. They're only about an hour or so, give or take. They joined from the Southern Bell Conference. They're a solid, a solid squad there. They won a couple of conference championships there in their sports. They won't join until 2026, so it won't be till next season. But it'll be interesting to see. They joined, of course, Boise State, Colorado State, Fresno State, Gonzaga, Oregon State, San Diego State, Utah State, and Wazoo. Those are going to be the members of the league. So they're going to be a little bit. They're going to get some of that chunk of that big money that they got from that new CBS contract. As historic moment. That's what Kelly Damphouse, the president, said. So we'll see what Texas Tech. Texas State, I should say. We'll see what they bring to the table.
All right. Any last minute news or nuggets?
Nope. Just like Jalen Williams is going to have wrist surgery. We kind of figured that, but yeah, I guess they found out that he when he fractured his wrist, and of course he hurt his wrist in March, and he played through it. We saw he had this big old band on his right wrist. Now he's gonna have surgery, but he'll have an NBA title now under his belt. So I'm sure if you ask him, it was worth it.
Yeah, hopefully he could be healthy and ready to go for the start of next year. All right, LaKeena, this is our last segment of the show for today and for the weeks. Just a friendly reminder, we will not be here on Friday, July the 4th, as we join the rest of you guys in celebrating America's birthday. If there's any worthy breaking news between now and next Monday, we will be here for an emergency pod. But in the meantime, in between time, our next show will be around this time next Monday. So please join us. But before we let you guys go, we have a special edition of Old School TV Monday. And since it's America's birthday, today yours truly will salute The West Wing, the old television series from NBC. It was an American political drama that was created by Aaron Sorkin. That was broadcasted on NBC from September of 1999 until May of 2006. The series was primarily set in the West Wing of the White House, where the Oval Office and offices of the presidential senior personnel were located. During the fictional two-term Democratic administration of President Josiah Bartlett, The West Wing was produced by Warner Brothers Television and features an ensemble cast which included Rob Lowe, Dwayne Hill, which I think he's a very underrated actor, Allison Janney, Richard Schiff, John Spencer, Bradley Whitford, Martin Sheen, Janelle Maloney, and Stocker Canning. For the first 4 seasons, there were 3 executive producers. After Sorkin left the series at the end of the 4 seasons, John Wells assumed the role of head writer, with later executive producers being directors Alex Graves and Christopher Mazzano in seasons 6 and 7, and the writers Lawrence O'Donnell and Pio Noel for season 7. The West Wing has been regarded in many publications as one of the greatest television shows of all time. It has received praise from critics, political science professors, and former White House staffers, and has been the subject of critical analysis. The West Wing received a multitude of accolades, including 2 Peabody Awards, 3 Golden Globe Awards, and 26 Primetime Emmy Awards, including awards for Outstanding Drama Series, of which won in 4 consecutive years from 2000 until 2003. The show's ratings waned in later years following the departure of series creator Sorkin after the 4th season. Yet it remained popular among high-income viewers. A key demographic for the show, and its advertisers averaging around 16 million viewers.
Yeah, including I think Allison Janney, Bradley Whitford, the late great John Spencer, all won Emmys. I think Janney won like 5 or 6 Emmys there during that time. I think she's won like about a million other awards, but yeah, she's won like 5 or 6 for the West Wing. But I think the show kind of gave what sort of like the thing with what Washington is like, at DC is like, that could run, but we know that's not the case in real life. So yeah, I think they weren't afraid to kind of tackle some other issues and topics. So we'll see, but it's gonna be it's sort of one of those shows that's still relevant. It's still it's still the test of time, and and if you get a chance, you guys should watch it, because even if you didn't get into it when it first in the first run, it is streaming in various spots. I'll tell you guys about it, but yeah, great cast, very talented cast, of course, Martin Sheen, Dule Hill, Janelle Maloney, Bradley Whitford, of course, I talked about Allison Janney. But yeah, a really great show that if you guys haven't checked out, you guys really should.
And let's not forget the actor who passed away a few months ago, the late great John Amos, aka James Evans Sr. for Good Times. He got starred in a couple of episodes of The West Wing, so check that out as LaKeena said, when you ever get a chance. I think you can see some episodes right here on YouTube, but it is available on DVD and other places as well. We'll give you that coming up. But other issues that was explored during the television series was the formation of the Minuteman Project, AIDS in Africa, the Northern Ireland peace process, the war on drugs and conflict in Colombia, the 1996 Defense of Marriage Act, federal funding for the arts, peak oil and the consequences of a decline in global oil production, and in invoking the 25th Amendment for an active president while the president is preoccupied with personal problems.
Yeah, so they weren't afraid to kind of go there with some of the issues. So I know when Sorkin left, I think that definitely took a dip when he left, but yeah, I think it definitely kind of stood there. It was still a top rated. It was still like in the top 30 when the show ended by the end of season 7. But yeah, it was definitely like one of those shows that I wasn't afraid to go there. So I think that was really like one of the things that's what made Aaron Sorkin what he is. It still does. I mean, he still has written and produced some really great shows and movies and such. So yeah, you can like I said, you can watch it on. I know they have it on Hulu. If you have Hulu, you can watch it there. Amazon Prime. I know Max. If you have either one of those streaming services on there as well. I know there are repeats that air of various places. So I think it still has it on USA. I think they still have it on there. But yeah, so it's pretty much everywhere where you can find it.
Yeah, and some of the actors that won awards throughout the show's airing included Alan Alda, Stocker Channing, as you mentioned, Allison Janney, Richard Scheif, Martin Sheen, the late John Spencer, and Bradley Whitford.
All right, so we cap off the show for this week as we salute the multiple critically acclaimed Emmy-winning political drama, The West Wing.
All right, LaKeena, take us home.
You follow LaKeena McGee on the Twitter, X, and IG.
You can follow your Shirley Sidney Brown on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. SIDKID80. Be sure to download the Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Please follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, X, Instagram, and YouTube. Please subscribe to our podcast. We are located at Warmia Podcast. That's WARR PODCASTS. We are on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And while you're at it, please give Warmia a follow at WARR on all social media platforms. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
Be sure to catch Second City Sports live in 11 color every Monday, every Friday, except for this Friday, from 12:15 to 2:15 p.m. Central Standard Time, right here on Sports Zone Chicago. One more game, as the kids would say. Be sure to catch Second City Sports live in 11 color every Monday, every Friday, except for this Friday, from 12:15 to 2:15 p.m. Central Standard Time, right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
And of course, you can catch Sports Zone Chicago anytime, anywhere on the Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook, YouTube channels. You can catch our show, Sean Sierra Sports, the Smoke Fellas, and all the other great content. Catch Sports Zone Chicago's anytime, anywhere on the Facebook and YouTube channels.
And you know we will provide.
All right, folks. Remember what enjoy if like I said, if you're off the whole week of July 4th, to go up until Friday and through the weekend, be safe. Celebrate and make sure you guys know what this holiday really means, and not just the barbecues and stuff. So enjoy all the sports, the baseball, the WNBA, golf. I know they got that geared up for the Open Championship over in Northern Ireland coming up next weekend. We'll talk about that and so much more. And also stay cool out there. I know it's kind of hot in a lot of spots around the country. So
and NASCAR is here in Chicago this weekend. So downtown Chicago is going to be a mess in terms of traffic wise. I know they're starting those closures on those streets already.
Yeah, and I believe that it looks like rain might be an issue once again for the third straight year.
Hope not.
So,
hope not.
Let's hope not. Like I said, let's hope not. It's still a long ways away from now until Sunday, but this weekend. But hopefully it won't be an issue there. But so if you are going there this weekend, be mindful of the closures and stuff. So just be careful out there. For Sid, I'm the kids of Second City Sports on Sports Chicago. I will see you guys next week.
God bless America, my home, sweet home. Holla!